Welcome back to Small Caps. My name's Kerry Stevenson, and today delighted to bring you a silver story. I'm with Andrew McIlwain. He's the Managing Director of Investigator Resources, with eye-watering grades of silver down at their Paris project in South Australia. Andrew, great to see you. Welcome back to Small Caps.
Kerry, thanks for that intro, and it's probably stolen my thunder, but great to be back talking to you again.
Oh, you know, I always love to steal people's thunder. Andrew, you've been getting on the job, getting on with the project down there. First of all, let's just start with a very quick overview of the Paris project. It's one of the highest grade silver projects in Australia.
Certainly, in fact, it's the highest grade primary silver project in Australia. We have a resource grade of nearly 140 grams per tonne, and if you sort of put that into gold equivalents, it's sort of the order of about 3 grams. So, 2 to 3 grams. Great grade, simple project, near surface, reasonably accessible. And in fact, the background behind me is the Paris project. It'll be a pit of the order of 1.2 kilometres long, 500 metres wide, and really no impediments to starting the project development. But below the surface there, $1.5 billion of silver in the ground.
So $1.5 billion. Your current market cap is 120 million. Let me repeat that, ladies and gentlemen. IVR, Investigator Resources, current market cap is $120 million, but you've got 1.5 billion Australian dollars of silver in this project. Is that correct?
That's right. So the JORC resource that was completed in 2017 had 42 million ounces of silver. 42 million ounces of silver by today's silver price of $35 Australian is just a little bit of change under $1.5 billion. A little bit of lead, which probably contributes to another sort of 5 or 10% of the revenue that the project might generate.
But it is predominantly a silver project. Does that mean that extraction it's an easier mine?
Look, compared to gold processing, silver processing is a little bit quirky, and people will always tell you that silver mineralogy is a little bit different. That said, relatively straightforward flotation, cyanide processing, and in fact, part of the work that we're doing now through the PFS study is in fact optimising the previous metallurgical studies and finding out how we can get those extra 1 and 2% recoveries. But average recovery of this project's around 75%. Having said that, some of the material is 85%. We're trying to lift up the lower recovery material in this exercise that we're doing at the moment.
Andrew, this is Small Caps. We've got a very big investor audience. I've got to ask you the question, why now for investors? Why is Investigator Resources something that investors should be looking at as part of their portfolio?
Look, if you're thinking about being exposed to silver, you should be thinking about Investigator. We mimic with our share price the move of the silver price on a daily basis. And you can see that, as you mentioned, a market cap of 120. A year ago, we had a market cap sub 10. We've developed the story over the last 12 months about what Paris means and how it can actually come forward to production. But so too, the silver price has moved along and people have benefited from that. We did a placement last August at 3 cents, so we're sitting at around 9 cents. So we still have 90% of those people that participated in the placement, and certainly our major shareholder who took half that placement are hanging in because they have a view that silver has got a lot of room to move yet.
Well, that's all very, very positive for those of you watching as investors out there. Any environmental concerns? I mean, I'm looking at the picture behind you and I'm thinking, doesn't look like it out there.
Look, I don't think displacing a few wild goats will be the major issue, and that's about the only impact we have out there. Sits on pastoral land, but in fact, as you can see, it's not particularly arable land. We have a good relationship with the landowner there, and in fact, I spoke to him last week, and we will no doubt work forward as to how we can develop a project on his land, but we won't be displacing any wheat fields or any sort of grazing stock in that district at all. There's no watershed issues out there, minimal rainfall, there's some salt lakes in the background, and no community issues. We're about 60 minutes drive from Kimber, which is the main community that we deal with. And look, when we're operating, we are the biggest thing in town, and we buy whatever we can out of Kimber. And the IGA has a truck come in every day to fuel the kitchen out at Paris when we're operating. But look, not the same challenges of starting a project in places with water catchment issues or community issues.
Boy, the IGA, the head of whoever's running the IGA in Kimber must love you guys.
Well, look, it's I say a double whammy. He's also the mayor, and look, he does. And there's a local butcher, and we buy South Australian beef out of there as well. But as I said, it's great for the community. There's a reasonably viable wheat district around there as well, and some long held ground held for many generations out there as well by farming communities. But as I said, we'll have a big impact in the district commercially when we start.
Okay, so let's talk some numbers now. We talked before about the fact that you've got a lot of silver in the ground, 1.5 billion Australian dollars. What's the next bit of news flow that's going to come out? You're going to be doing a PFS in the middle of the year, is that correct?
Sure. So leading into that PFS, we undertook, in fact, the largest drill program in South Australia at Paris. We drilled 26,000 metres, most of that in the project, to better define the resource. We've released, I think, 3 or 4, and certainly this week we released an update of the results that we've got out of that infill drilling. It's been a little frustrating being able to pull that together. As I said, 20-odd thousand metres of drilling in the pit, 22,000 samples that we've generated. Each of those samples has started as a 20-kilo bag that's had to be manhandled, and we've had to dry them in some instances and then get them into a laboratory, which is really now seeing some industry pressure to turn around. So our sample turnarounds have gone out, or our assay turnarounds have gone out from 4 to 6 or 7 weeks.
Wow.
But long story short is that we'll in fact have more results coming. I expect we'll probably have 2 or 3 more announcements about the infill results over the next 6 weeks before we do the work and we restate the resource. The objective of this drill program, Kerry, was to improve the geostatistical or geological confidence of the ore body, and that it's a little technical, but it's to move from an inferred to an indicated category. When you put together a mine plan, you can't declare a reserve on an inferred resource. You have to have an indicated or a measured resource. So we have to lift our confidence. One of the great things about Paris is the more drilling you do and the better, the more detailed information you get, and you move from inferred to indicated, the grade goes up as well. And we saw that in the shift from the 2015 to the 2017 resource, that the inferred grade went up 37% to the indicated.
Wow. Okay.
So, look, I can't promise what it will be, and I'm not going to predict the number, but we're pretty comfortable we're going to see the grade move up. If that's the case, we're going to have more ounces in the ground, and $1.5 billion of value might be history. It might be, well north of that. So the process we're going through is that we're finalising or getting the last of the assays from that drill program. That we expect we'll have that by early April. There's a 3 or 4 week process of re-estimating the resource, and by May we'll have a new resource out. That's going to be the crux for we're finalising the PFS work, which includes not only the metallurgical test work we're doing, but the economic evaluation that we'll do on the back of what we see as a new mine plan.
In terms of coming through with all of this, I have to ask you, and I know it's further down the track, what's the sort of the timing to get into the sort of production of getting some revenue going, and what sort of numbers are you looking at sort of CapEx wise to get into production?
Sure. Look, one of the great things, we raised money last July and August for this project, and we raised $8 million. Our share price moved forward from that 3% placement to the 9 cents about, in December. That allowed us to see 98% of our options exercise. So we had another $7 million come in. So we actually started this year with $14 million. I say that as background because a lot of companies get to the next news point and have to raise money to go forward. So when we complete the PFS, we'll have enough cash still in the bank to be able to have a clear runway to go straight forward to a DFS if we don't make that decision as a board to progress on. So we won't be raising money again shortly, just to go to the next step of the project. That said, DFS will be completed by mid-year. Look, the scoping study provided us with numbers of the order of $100 million CapEx. Now, it's quite a range. That's plus or minus 30% at that level. So it's sort of, it'll be, I think, sub $150 million CapEx for that project. I expect, and look, I've got a Scottish background and I can normally squeeze a few dollars out somewhere. I expect that we'll be able to put together a fairly robust project here. As I said, order of $100 million. And that's something that with the project economics we've seen in our internal studies would be eminently financeable. However, we wanted to go about debt equity type finance.
Right. And in terms of timing, sort of 23, 24?
So look, we'll make a decision to go onto the DFS this year if we got our skates on, and look, the regulatory process is relatively straightforward and I don't think that would delay us, but we could realistically be seeing a project develop there at the, excuse me, back end of 22 into 23.
Wow, there's a lot of work going on at the moment, Andrew. You're a very busy man, so I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. And for the investors out there, as I said before, this is a market cap of 120 million with an in-ground resource at the moment of 1.5 billion, looking like a capex of 150 million. So some interesting numbers there. Andrew, any final comments before we finish up today?
Look, Kerry, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, but also to talk about the Paris project because it's great talking about something that's good. I've been on the other side where you've had to try and, talk about things that haven't got the same sort of shine on them, but this is a great project, as you said, underpinned by some really simple things. It's got great grade, triple the grade that some of the other projects around on the ASX have got. It has great shareholder support. Our major shareholder owns 15% of this and they love silver. We have great regional and state support. There won't be impediments, from communities and regulatory issues to develop this project. So it's about how long the silver price has got to run. And look, I don't have a filter on my news feed, but I see more things coming in telling me the silver price is going to be greater in the future rather than lower. So I keep saying, if you're thinking silver, think Investigator.
Well, Andrew, I think that even with the silver price where it sits today, this is still a very viable project.
Look, it's exciting to be involved in this one, Kerry.
Andrew, thanks for talking with us today. We look forward to lots more news flow in 2021 out of Investigator Resources. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks very much.